To make you mad.
Hey, when it's just coming like a bang, I guess make it happen.
We're listening.
The first of the three public hearings tonight is a rezoning request for East Gannon Avenue. Specifically, Thurston Dedman is the applicant's representative, but the property owner is Providence Bank. As a bit of a note, these parcels were actually rezoned in error as part of the Unified Development Ordinance, and I'll get more into those details. Total acreage of all the assemblage is 37.44 acres. And initially, during the time of application, it started with 5 parcels, and one of those has been since split, still owned by Providence Bank. So there is a total of 7 parcels now that are being rezoned. Currently, it's zoned R2, and the applicant is requesting it be rezoned to HC heavy commercial with no conditions. As I noted, this property originally was zoned heavy business under the previous zoning code. However, there was an error or a glitch in the GIS file when it transferred over to the new zoning classifications, and it unfortunately defaulted to the H2 residential district. Staff has done an analysis of not only these parcels, but a couple others that will be coming before you at the January public hearing to correct those others. There's 3 other parcels that will need to be corrected as part of that. But the applicant is requesting it be rezoned back to a commercial classification, and the closest comparable one was the heavy commercial. The tract in question is just west of the Walmart and does include both sides of Gannon, right here. Like I mentioned, is collection parcels. At the time of application, this southern tract was 1 parcel that has since been split into 2. As previously noted, it is currently zoned R2, but the applicant is requesting that it be zoned HB. This zoning classification is not only consistent with our future land use map, but also consistent with the neighboring property owner or the neighboring development for Walmart, and is adjacent to industrial on 2 of the 3 sides, or 2 of the 4 sides. And the one residential that it's adjacent to is actually opposite of the railroad tracks. As you can see, the property is currently vacant. There's no development going on right now. And with that, staff does recommend approval. I'm available if you have any questions. Otherwise, the applicant is present tonight to provide a statement.
Okay. Questions from either board? Thank you, Michael. All right, anyone wishing to speak in favor?
Hi, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. My name is Thurston Dedman, member of the board, planning board. I am not employed by Providence Bank. I am an attorney representing Providence Bank. I was sitting in my office one day. Robert Ladd, some of you may remember Robert, who used to live here, work at the old Centura Bank, called and said, property that we foreclosed on in Zebulon and we now own has been rezoned. Apparently after Cornerstone Bank foreclosed on the property, they came before the town board, had the property rezoned to a heavy business kind of classification. And I don't know how Robert discovered this, but he woke up one morning, looked at the official zoning map, and discovered that the property had been rezoned to a residential classification. Of course, Robert's first question to me was, well, how can this happen? And of course, I don't have any answer to that. We found out that it is most likely a mistake. My way of simply characterizing it is someone used the wrong color magic marker when they colored the rezoning map and put the residential characterization in there. So we have filed this petition asking that we be put back as near as possible to where we were before that, what we call an error. We went through the process. We had a neighborhood meeting at the Zebulon Chamber of Commerce for 2 hours as required. We had one individual show up representing an adjoining property owner over in the industrial park and had some questions about permitted uses. And we had some conversation about permitted uses in the classification we're seeking. And I don't see her here tonight, but we're not here tonight to debate whether your ordinance has the correct uses. What we're trying to do is get back to where we were before this mistake put us in a residential classification. And then, if the town wishes to proceed to discuss permitted uses and which ones are appropriate and which ones are not appropriate in these commercial business classification, we're willing to participate in that conversation. We'll sit quietly by, but we would like to be returned to the status that we had before this malfunction or mistake. And I am available if anyone has any questions, Mr. Mayor.
Questions from either board? Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and refer the matter to the planning board for their recommendation. The next is CZ 2020-04, call for staff report.
Good evening. Conditional zoning 2020-04, 201, 313, 469 Green Pace Road. The applicant is Tommy Craven, owner of Site Investments LLC. The cumulative parcel size is about 34 acres. The existing zoning is heavy commercial. The request before you today is proposing from existing heavy commercial to light industrial conditional zoning, and all the conditions tied to this conditional zoning district are on attachment 6 of your staff report. As I just stated, the development size is about 34 acres. 201 Green Pace Road is about 6 acres. 313 Green Pace Road is about 32 acres. And then 469 Green Pace Road is roughly 2 acres. This is the zoning map. Adjacent zoning to the north and east is heavy commercial. You have rural residential R1 across Green Pace Road to the west, and then across 264, you have some light industrial zoning. These are pictures from the site visit looking north on Green Pace Road at the subject site. This is an adjacent single-family residence across Green Pace Road. Another posted sign on Green Pace Road. And this is a single-family residence across Green Pace Road. And this is the adjacent commercial establishment adjacent to the development to the north. That concludes my presentation. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Questions from either board?
Mead, I got a question. Just for our own knowledge, what is, aside from the
Can you
septic?
speak in your microphone for us,
Yeah,
please?
sorry.
You can
Take this off. Aside from the septic issue, what is the reason behind zoning down to light industrial versus heavy commercial? I just want to know from our UDO standpoint what's causing that.
Sure. So parcels of property's been vacant for several years. The only way to get sewer to the site is to bore under 64, and it's really not cost effective. So that's one of the reasons in looking at the down zone to light industrial.
So the down zoning is just to have a less impact for the septic, or is there something else in the UDO that's requiring, since there's septic, it can no longer be heavy commercial?
Well, it could be heavy commercial, but you would have to extend extend the
Okay.
utilities, but because of the cost, keeping it going to the down zone is
Yeah.
one of the reasons to.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that if there was something in the UDO that was causing a hiccup that we could kind of figure out what that was if we need a remedy. Okay.
Other questions?
So has an analysis been done on what kind of traffic impact that would have as far as like heavy trucks and anything like that?
What we'll do is when they submit for their site plan, based on the use, if it exceeds the threshold, which is over 100 trips per peak hour, that's when we'll evaluate the transportation impact analysis.
Okay. And then my other concern is the adjacent property that's a business there is a veterinary hospital. So is there any concern with any types of manufacturing that might go in there or storage that could potentially impact the animals or patrons of that veterinary hospital?
When evaluating the use, that's one of the conditions was increasing that buffer width in case there was a use that was allowed in light industrial, just to kind of make the development fit in better with the surrounding area or buffer it.
Okay. Other questions? Anyone? All right, thank you. Me? Anyone wishing to speak in favor?
Yes, good evening. My name is Tommy Craven. I'm with Priest Craven and Associates. We're land use consultants, land planners, landscape designers, civil engineers, and land surveyors. I'm here tonight with Mike Jordan of Site Investments LLC to speak in support of this rezoning on the Green Pace Business Park. As Meade said, the request is to rezone 3 parcels totaling 34 acres from heavy commercial to light industrial. Just to give you a little history on some of the background, in 2019, Raleigh Public Utilities determined that they would not allow a sewer pump station to be installed on this site or to serve this drainage area that's upstream of this site and the adjacent properties. Also in 2019, the property received subdivision approval for a 9-lot business park subdivision to be served with water from the existing water line in Green Pace. That's Raleigh Public Utilities water, and with individual septic tanks, because as Meade said, the gravity outfall to the south was of such a length, and boring under 264 and acquiring the easements and dealing with the rock were just prohibitively expensive. And Raleigh did not think that they could justify the maintenance responsibility, the increased maintenance responsibility on the lift station. So our soils engineers went to work on the site. Soil and environmental consultants found that there were enough suitable soils there to support septic tanks on each of the lots. We designed it around that, and we feel that we can accommodate that with a reasonable size facility. Every facility has the variable of how many employees work there, which is what guides the septic tank system design. But we've had one potential buyer who still wants to buy the first lot, the northernmost lot. He runs a business that serves residential and commercial builders, and he does things like showers and bathroom installations and that sort of thing. And he has a number of representatives that come in the morning, load up their materials in the vans, get their directions, and head out to make those installations. There's storage that takes place there. There's some very light assembly. And he is sort of the individual that Mike had targeted as the niche market for these 6 lots. They're business owners. They need a new facility. Their businesses are growing. They're doing well. And they see that location as something that's viable for them. It has good access for that sort of a thing, but not great access. It doesn't have good commercial access. So he's sort of the target market for the group of entrepreneurs that we see that would be there. come mainly from 3 different groups: new construction and building industry trades, service providers meeting existing residential and commercial needs, and also support and service providers to larger industrial and manufacturing facilities that might be located, and pharmaceuticals that might be located in the area. There may also be, as this economy continues to change, increased opportunity for distribution, storage and distribution type facilities. And as Meade pointed out, each of those, once the use is known and trips, vehicle trips, either automobile or truck traffic, can be adequately predicted based on the certainty of the size of the use, then the TIA can be performed and traffic impacts and access decisions can be made. The purpose of this rezoning is twofold. One, we want to reset the allowed uses and style of development to be more in line with what was intended by the original zoning code, yet still respecting the intent of what is currently called for in the UDO. This subdivision was initially approved prior to the implementation of the UDO. When the UDO came in with the heavy commercial designation on this property, it created a set of standards that were probably pretty well aligned for a large-scale shopping center, but not very well suited for a flexible style of use and building that could be economically installed on that property. The second purpose of this is to adopt the current UDO regulations on driveways, cross-access, and buffering to take into consideration the very significant site constraint of the suitable soils for septic tank facilities. Not every square foot of soil on each of those lots is suitable for that septic tank. The soil, to use the old school term, the soil won't perk. The soil scientists cringe when I say that because that's not a valid definition anymore, but they won't absorb the water into them the way they need to. There are only limited locations within each site that have those suitable soils, and you have to use them for that. You can't use them for driveways and parking lots and put buildings on them unless you have a lot of suitable soils on the lot. So we think we've crafted a set of conditions here that allow a flexibility in uses, that allow some light industrial uses, and I think we've excluded the more obnoxious light industrial uses, and also allow some heavy commercial uses. And again, we've excluded the larger and more intense of those heavy commercial uses. So we feel like we've created sort of a blended zoning category here, and we appreciate the fact that your zoning code and the conditional use provides us that opportunity. There was one thing in the staff report that I thought was interesting, and I did want to speak to, and then I'll be quiet and answer any questions that anybody might have. But the report noted that there would be greater tax revenue that came to the town out of heavy commercial development on this property than out of the light industrial development of this property. And that's absolutely true, but I think the question is that, or my statement is that assumes that there is a heavy commercial use for this site. And both Mike and I are in agreement that given the lack of available sewer, the lack of available access, again, there's reasonable access, but it's not great access to this site. NCDOT's budget problems, I think, pretty much preclude any significant improvements in the near future. A host of problems that are currently overwhelming brick and mortar retail. The changes of shopping habits that began before COVID have accelerated through COVID and will continue to be with us, hopefully, when we get to post-COVID. And the demanding standards of the UDO for commercial development. We believe that given all of those, there's very little viability for a purely commercial, heavy commercial development of this property. So if that's what the goal is, I think the tax revenue that comes from that is going to be pretty much zero for you. On the other hand, we think that with this sort of a blended zoning district, that there's a good possibility that there will be a complete build-out of those 6 lots in a 5 to 6 year kind of time frame, and we believe that would make a significant contribution to the town's tax base and come with very little additional costs for you. With that, I'll be quiet and try to answer any questions that anyone has. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions from either board? Guess not. You must have done a good job. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right. And finally, transportation plan amendment.
See if I can do this without making too much ruckus. Okay, good evening again, Mr. Mayor, members of the board, as well as the planning board. The final of the joint public hearing items tonight is a transportation plan amendment. Specifically, staff is requesting to amend the multimodal transportation plan to create a connector from Innovative Way to East Gannon. Specifically, it's going to run across the parcels that are up for subject rezoning tonight, as well as parcel that's currently zoned industrial, just west of the tract that's currently owned by Walmart. Part of the rationale for this is given uses and activities that are currently located along Innovative Way, and the proximity of those uses to East Wake Academy, it's a safety benefit to have multiple means of ingress into the development, whereas Industrial Drive, if it is blocked for some reason at Horton and Arundel, it inhibits access unless they go up through the land that's currently owned by East Wake Academy. This will create that additional access. Additionally, if other uses go in on Innovative Way, it'll help reduce the congestion that's already occurring at both Industrial Drive as well as into the access of the school on Cemetery Road. The proposed cross-section would be a 2-lane divided, similar to what was approved for the Judd Street collector modification that came before you earlier this month. Staff does recommend approval of the transportation plan as submitted, and I'm available if you have any questions.
Questions from either board? Mike, the one that I have is that I know that Venventions and Nomacork have for years wanted another access to bring their trucks in to avoid the East Wake Academy. And of course, I won't go into all the reasons it hadn't happened, but it's still, I think, somewhat on their radar. One of the problems was the driveway permitting from NCDOT. Have you had any conversations with them with regards to that?
Not for this particular alignment, but ultimately with these transportation plans, they're not engineered specific. It's essentially trying to find a way to connect point A to point B. So that process would be worked through as part of any development process on the tract that's actually up for conditional for rezoning tonight. When they come in, they're going to be requesting some level of driveway access, and this will allow them to work with NCDOT for the construction of the road as opposed to just the driveway.
Right. Well, I had some thoughts and proposed some ideas with regards to the waterproofing business, and because they do have a driveway permit there right now. So, I know you know all this, but I'm trying to get it on the record that all that would have to be reviewed. But it's not insurmountable. I just wondered if you had any conversation, and you've answered that question for me. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
I have a question. With the proposed road, like where it comes out on the main road, I mean, is that like really close to that other intersection, like going into Walmart? Is there any thought on making that like an access into the shopping center as well, or still maintaining the one access point for the shopping center?
There's a parcel currently located in between, and this is where the parcel for the shopping center is.
Yeah.
And then there's this parcel in between. If there's the opportunity for this center parcel to be redeveloped, our UDO does require cross-access agreements to be established when applicable. In this situation, if there's a way to help alleviate the traffic, that's something that can be worked through as part of the technical review committee process. Okay. So a long way of saying probably.
Other questions? Okay, thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Is there anyone that would like to speak on this issue? Didn't think so, but I had to ask. All right. We will close the public hearing and refer that matter to the planning board as well. And I'll ask for Joe to give us the manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the board, for adding this to your agenda. I've just got some pressing information that I wanted to get in front of the group and by extension out to the community. So first things, with the holiday schedule, you have a pretty quick turnaround time. So your work session is on Wednesday, so that you have not only the agenda in front of you that's been handed out, but we provided a brief overview memo just to kind of give you an idea of some of the topics that you'll be talking about on Wednesday. The more pressing matter is the fact that we continue to see a spike in COVID-related cases after the Thanksgiving holiday, and we expect to continue to see these rising cases throughout December as well as after Christmas. So in preparation for that, as a way to provide a buffer between the Christmas holidays and the 2-week period afterwards, so we can get a sense of if we were continuing to have increasing cases, we're going to close the Zebulon Community Center on Friday of this week, and we'll keep it closed through January 15th. And also, we will suspend all recreation programs and facility rentals will be suspended on December 19th. We'll keep you in the loop as we see what kind of case activity we see in the Zebulon area. I will know more Wednesday, and I'll share at that work session what our recommendation would be as far as if we can keep Town Hall open to the public or not, but we need to evaluate that. But at the very least, I wanted to get news out to you and to the community that we would close the community center December 19th through the 15th, and we would suspend recreation programs and facility rentals on December 19th. And I'll take any comments or questions you may have.
Comments from the board?
Wise move.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John.
Thank you.
All right. All right, that concludes our agenda. So is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion, we adjourn?
Second.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
We're jumping at second.